Hey, everybody, welcome back to Gardens, the Untold Story. I'm your host, Ken Somerville, my co host, Andy Lopez, the Invisible Gardener. And we're going over Andy's book chapter by chapter. And we're on chapter 11 Don't Panic, It's Natural. So, Andy, it's your book. Talk to me about why I shouldn't panic that it's natural.
It feels so weird. You're on the opposite side. Normally, I'm on this side. It's a little dizzy now. It just feels like, oh, there it is. I'm getting
Old
dizzy.
people need things consistent.
So I'm going to go ahead. Before I start on my regularly scheduled program, you guys know me. I'm going to throw in some interesting things about this natural. So when I started remembering what I was doing, when I can remember when I started Invisible Gardener, 1970. To me, see, there wasn't any organic certification programs going on at that time that I can think of. I'm not sure. I was thinking when they first started doing that, it wasn't really that long ago when they started doing it here in the United States, organic certification. So maybe in the 80s, definitely in the, something along those lines. But so when I started doing this, and I didn't get Don't Panic It's Organic until 1970, 71. I started calling it Don't Panic It's Organic. So something was going on in that realm. Something I can think of. The dude had organic in there, so something was going on. But the word natural to me, and I felt that it meant the same thing to the system. The stores and the people buying. That the word natural was exactly that, natural. What you find in nature, unchanged, clean, right? That to me, when I went and bought something, it doesn't say natural certification. It was not certified, but natural meant that the farmers grew it right. It was clean. It didn't have chemicals in it, and when you bought something from any part of the world. Even then, what happened was is that you would buy companies would we're going to cost less. We're going to buy something from China or wherever, right? And we're going to label it as natural. So then that's how it started, because when you start growing all this stuff, doing all this stuff naturally, you wanted to start bringing it in cheaper and start expanding it. But you didn't have a way to control those guys who said, "Yeah, we're doing it sustainably, naturally."
Right.
I remember the store. I'm not going to give any names because it's still here around, and it's very, very. It was always very confusing to me. I would go in there and say, "This is supposed to be a health food store, right?" But the stuff that they were selling says natural, all natural, all natural, all natural. So I would read the labels, and I go, "Okay, so what is natural about some of these chemicals, additives?" So you have the additive, right? It was voluntary, 1972. 1973. Thank you, silly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And hey, go figure. It was started out in California.
Yeah. Yes. Go figure. Right. And so even then, I was aware that there was some kind of. It wasn't totally. If you don't organize it, there's going to be people are going to be breaking the rules, figuring out a way to cash in on that. And that's what started happening, because we started. I don't remember if there was a worldwide movement or it was just here in Florida. I was in Florida, boys. Maybe it's just in the United States. Or maybe it's just me, because I don't remember buying things when I was young from other countries. So I basically would go to a local store or locally in the city to buy whatever it was I needed. See, so I wasn't too aware of anything going on out there. But the word natural to me, it meant organic. It meant natural. It meant this is good. This is clean. When I buy food to eat, you grew it naturally. Great. And to me, when I talk to these farmers, natural means we have this cattle, we do this, we have this farm, we don't spray anything, we don't use any pesticides, we're sustainable, regenerative, all this stuff. Especially if you talk to the person, right? He's there, he shows you his farm, and even that can be very, very misleading, because I've known people who are sustainable.
Yeah.
And I know people who have biodynamic systems. They say that, but when you really talk to them, they say, "Well, if all of this doesn't work, we can do these." the Integral Pest Management System, right? It's called Integral Pest Management, IPM, which a lot of companies do now, right? Integral Pest Management. This is Integral Pest Management. It's clean and safe, the best on the market, right? Well, they have steps 1 through 10. 1 through 10. All these different things that you should be doing, which I call them cultural. Yeah, you have to don't overwater. Make sure you do the right kind of plant. You have to. It doesn't say anything about stress, but it talks about the basics. Be careful on how you prune it. You know, what are you doing to take care of your environment, kind of thing. That's the problem. But step 7, 8, and 9, or 8, 9, and 10 says, if you do all these things and you still got a problem, these are the chemicals you can use. Yeah, it blew me away. I said, what the heck are you talking about? These chemicals are toxic. What is this? You know. And so I came up with AIPM, Advanced AIPM. If you go 1 through 8 and it doesn't work, you go back to 1. So I was already combative about this. This how, you know, because people were taking advantage of it, and they still are to this day. I can go to the store and look at something that says natural on it, and you turn around, you read the ingredients. First of all, it doesn't say anything about what kind of fertilizers. There's no regulations saying what kind of fertilizers they can use. A chemical fertilizer. They can use a chemical pesticide. Technically, that's the way it's supposed to be. Natural means you're not using. It's free. So now they say no GMO used. That's all they will say. Non-GMO.
Yeah.
When I look at this natural, it says non-GMO. I will say plant-based. Right? It would say, you know, we only have good food here. You know, you look at all this stuff, and it says that it's like, well, you know that these guys are not really telling you the truth. They're doing something in the background, but we're claiming it to be this. So that's the problem when you have up to this day now. And I'm going to do a little share because I want to show you. Let's see if I do. Oh, here it is. Present or invite. Yeah, look at that share screen. Oh, wow. So cool. I love technology, don't you? There it is. Okay. Now, so see the term. Now, can you see me? Can you tell me I'm reading? I can see it. Okay, no problem. Right. So the term, there it is. Okay. The term natural is often used broadly, but its meaning in food labeling is generally different from its use in agricultural practices. See, because you know, I when you look at somebody selling you a natural product, it's differently regulated than how he grew it. They grew it. Okay, which is like, oh yeah, right. Well, that's why certifications, I think, came about, because it was getting too out of hand. You want to know if this is an organic product, that it was also grown organically. That'll be the purpose of it, because they try to get away with this product here. Organic is carbon, and therefore it's an organic product. See, right?
Okay.
Anyway, so the word natural in food labeling, right? This is what the FDA defines the term. There's no artificial or synthetic ingredients, right? So that's very good right there. No artificial or synthetic ingredients. Minimal processing for meat, poultry, and eggs. That's the key word, minimal. But what it doesn't cover is that how these food were grown. It says here, this is, I got it from my favorite AI. Okay, I drilled it down so I get it down to where I want it. Most foods, the natural label does not address how the food was grown or produced. You see, so here's a natural product. Naturally, that it's the same thing as the not natural, the one that doesn't say anything whether organic or not. The difference is you would buy that one. That would be the difference. Okay. Okay. And so here's the term of the definition of natural when it comes to agricultural practices. Okay. So ideally, it should be chemical-free, minimal intervention. Now, minimal, there's that word again. See, remember 1 through 8? You can still go to 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah. Use these chemicals. That's a minimal intervention. Okay. Okay. And so, and then one of the things about natural and agriculture is that it's supposed to be for soil health. It's supposed to be for biodiversity. But there's a reason why you can't call it organic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you are using something that's not organic, some chemical. So it's kind of like, to me, it's very hard to understand how you can be involved in soil health and biodiversity when you would be using chemical fertilizers, chemical pesticides, chemical fungicides. You're saying, I'm doing the right thing for the soil. This is how we're going to control this. We're spraying this. And the spraying could be not as toxic. The integral pest management system, these are chemicals you can use. These supposedly chemicals are not as toxic. In other words, Roundup is not on the list, right? It's not on the list. There are a whole bunch of them that are not on the list. But just because they're not on the list, and these things are just as toxic as these other things are. The only difference is they're getting away with it more. Tobacco will kill you.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, Andy, I think a lot of it, Andy, is what people want to believe, that their politicians, people like that, would not allow things that hurt people and plants to be out there. Unfortunately, they're wrong. The government isn't, about, all this stuff being good for us. They're about making laws, and it's the people that are, pushing different laws and different ways of phrasing things that are in control, not the people that actually go, well, no, these pesticides shouldn't be used. They just changed the law to make it so that they can use them under a different name.
So I've been doing a radio show on the brick and mortar where I would drive, and people will call me up in the station, the different stations that I would be in. Let me see. I can continue sharing, but I'll bring this back up again, because basically all that does is it says the same thing that we're saying, but not. This is a little more straightforward in that this natural system could have any chemical in it. It could be done any which way but loose, and you have to buy natural you have to be very careful. One time I would buy something natural if I'm going to the farmer's market, and I say, okay,
yeah,
what is that? Well, all the chemicals that I used to feel over the years, none of it can or should be called organic. Yeah, well, one of the organics, this is weird. So just say I have a farm and I've been growing chemical for years and years and years, right? And I got caught trying to sell stuff as organic. Oh, it's organic, but then it called me. So, well, I'm just going to start doing it organically and be called label and label organic. 3 years, you're allowed to. You have to not grow anything on that land, and then after 3 years, you can start growing it. It'll be totally clean. You can start calling it organic.
Well, I think actually in the organic certification, I don't know about everywhere. It's 3 to 5 years. You're not allowed to use anything chemical. You're not even supposed to have anything like that on your property in your sheds. But who's actually enforcing that? Is there soil testing being done? And where's that percentage of going, okay, well, once it reaches this percentage of these forever chemicals in your soil, now we can say that you're certified organic. It's really hard to say where, the line has been drawn, because I know growing up, my family had a certified organic strawberry farm, and it took us 3 years to be certified. We could grow for 3 years, and then we could be called certified organic, but who's the people in the back end that's actually testing this?
So look, in the beginning, God created the earth. No, that was wrong story. Stop it. I didn't say that. But in the beginning, when this started, they had the right consciousness about it. Okay, we're going to come and test your soil. We're going to then, one of the problems with being certified is lots of paperwork. Yeah, they test the soil all the time. They check you for chemicals. They check everything for chemicals. A lot of people don't want to do that because it's so much work, and it's a real mess. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying that's the process. And so a lot of people what they do is they don't do the certification. They say, no, I'm not going to do it because it's too expensive, but we are organic, and you can find out for yourself. But those that go through the process, like OMRI, which is supposed to be, everything's supposed to be, you're tested and all this stuff, and that it's totally organic and safe. Well, that's not exactly happening the way it should be, in my opinion. This is my opinion, folks.
Yeah.
And so it's gotten to the point now where you can't really believe anything when you go start, even if it says certified organic on it. I was reading about lots of companies slap a certified organic label on it, even though it's not. And so,
well, Andy, you think that, okay, they can bring in produce from another country, not have any clue, of how it was growing, but because the people here packaged it, or people in the U.S., it was grown in or processed in the U.S., they can put a U.S. stamp on it, but it's not from the U.S. So we really have no clue unless you go to the farmer, unless you go to Andy's yard and pick his lettuce. You don't know
you're
what
not
the hell
getting
you're
my
buying in the
lettuce.
store.
You ain't getting my lettuce.
No, that's for that's for the squirrels.
No, and it's actually gotten worse.
Much.
Oh yeah, and so I'll give you how really weird. So this whole genetically modified organisms thing, I started yelling about it in the early, I think it was 78, 79. The British are coming. The British are coming. Sorry, Brit, but because I was top of where they first started producing genetically modified organisms, and they were saying, no, this is totally safe. We take the chemical, put it in the gene, it's hidden. You're not going to affect you, not going to affect the environment. Totally clean. We're all doing it that way. That way we don't have to use Roundup. We put Roundup in the seed. The plant, the weeds can't handle the Roundup, and we don't have to spray. When in reality, they spray more than ever before of the Roundup because everything's more immune to it. But so I was in the genetically modified organism business. It's really, really one of the weirdest things that I've ever encountered. And I've been around a long time. I've worked with people who have been for the round. I didn't work for Roundup. I was, I fought Roundup, and I fought all kinds of other chemicals, and so I've been around all these different things. And this is the weirdest one because here's a company that is modifying genes, which alone is a warning signal, because I think they put in an easy term. So we're having a climate change, and this whole environment is getting hotter and hotter. And normally the way you deal with it, you grow something and then you let it get used to the heat, and then you grow it again. Eventually the plant is accustomed to the higher temperatures, they can grow and all that. It takes a while. That's a natural genetic modification. It's naturally genetically modified. And so there's three different classifications of genetically modified organisms. There's a natural one, which you do that. We are genetically modified organisms. We're not identical to our parents. Our genes are different. They're modified. Okay, and a gardener naturally modifies their vegetables. I give you an example. So I grew tomatoes, and I entered tomato contest. So I would have 20 different kinds of tomatoes, and people would go, "Oh, this is a tomato I want to eat. This is delicious. Oh my God!" And I said, "You're right." So I would grow more. Instead of growing all tomatoes, I would grow more of this tomato. Right? I would grow a whole bunch of this one variety. And then within that variety, you would get one particular batch that was like, oh my God. The same thing with pot. You grow something, and all of a sudden, one particular gene sticks out, and that's how it changes the whole thing. And so that's genetically modified right there. The lots of things on the market that you buy now, lettuce, it's genetically modified. Different vegetables and stuff that we've eaten the wheat that you eat now is genetically modified. So there's different ways to naturally, the way you grow it and so on. That's one of the ways to modify. The other one is
you're breeding for a modification,
right?
It's not a chemical modification, which is what we generally call genetically modified foods.
So, like I said, it's broken up into three categories. That the first one is where you're breeding. The second one is where you actually take a chemical, like the Roundup, and you put it in the gene. They've taken the Roundup, by the way, the company. Actually, Monsanto went and sold it to Bayer Aspirin. Bayer Aspirin now owns Roundup, and it's a very nice company. I really like Bayer Aspirin, and we're friends. And you know, it's fine. I'm not saying anything about them. I'm just saying this is what's, and so that is another way. And the company actually is going to other pesticide chemical companies. Says, look, we can take your product and put it in the genes too.
Yeah.
And so that's the whole business right there. You're going to be finding more and more of that out in the market now, because it doesn't really make any sense. And then the third system, the third form of genetically modified organisms is radiation, when you expose genes to radiation. Now, this is a tricky one, because there was a case that went to court and said radiation is natural. Therefore, we should be able to radiate food and still call it organic, because look around, it's all radiation. It doesn't get any more natural than this, because that's what they were going to do. They were going to take radioactive waste, put food through through a trolley or something, and expose it, and we'll get rid of all the germs. And that would be exposing, and who knows what mutations you would get from that.
Well, they did that with the cannabis industry here in Canada.
Oh, did they?
All your bud in the stores, or most of it, is, ran through the process, so there's no mold spores, or anything bad in there. It's just all the nuclear radiation that's in there, which is, that's so healthy for you. Yeah,
and that does affect. So shoot, I forgot what I was going to say. I know we were talking about the three of them, and so they tried that in the United States, and it didn't work because we were a little bit smarter than, I guess, other people, and they said, no, we're not going to do that. It doesn't make any sense, to radiate our food. But the industry is. Remember, we had talked about when we got shut down about how the doctors and the agriculture people are basically in the same boat, and that's what's going on here. You can see how food and agriculture are intertwined, and the same thing with natural. Unfortunately, or fortunately for us, I guess it's unfortunate, because natural has become. I don't buy things that say natural anymore. I look at it, I go, yeah, it's natural, all right. The only time I buy anything natural is when I grow it. And
well, then right? How it's growing. That's where that's where it's so important, at the farmer's market, to get to know the farmer, because there's lots of those guys in those booths out there that are going to the docks, buying the produce off the dock and bringing it to your farmer's market. They're not growing it at all.
I'm glad you said that, because there's a farm here,
mm-hmm.
and they do exactly that. They buy it from other farmers and they sell it. Because I asked her, you grow this stuff here? And he goes, no, we just buy and sell it. But the sign says all natural, organic, grown. Yeah, they grow it. We don't grow it. But the sign says, this is your farm, and your farm, you're growing this food, but you're selling it, because you're not really growing it, but you're selling it. And it's like, well, do you know the farmers? Do you know if it's organic? Do you know anything? Because you're selling it as organic, so you should have some idea that your food is. Where's it? Have you visited the farm you buy from? Because that's the first thing I would go over there and walk around the back of the barn, into other rooms, and say, what is this stuff here you got here? What do you have hiding in this room here? Show me. Because if it's in there, they're going to be using it.
Yes. Yeah.
And so the word natural has gone through a lot of changes, and I think it's going to be become a totally useless gimmick that people are not going to fall for anymore, because they're going to realize that. But I think that the organic certification is undergoing some changes as well, in terms of there are lots of sneakery, all kinds of stuff going on there that you need to be aware of, and it's no way we can deal with it, because again, the forces that be are pretty much all involved with the whole setup. That otherwise it would never happen, right? You know what I mean? So you understand. I don't want to get too far away on that level, because then that's ridiculous. Because in other words, the same people that are governing everything, that have the laws and the rules and stuff, are probably the very same people that are now within the system to change it.
Well, and that's what the part of the problem is, and it doesn't matter what country around the world it is, but a lot of people that are making the rules, when they retire, they end up getting positions with these big companies that are doing the bad things, and they're supposed to be the ones that are protecting us. But it really comes down to trying to grow your own produce, grow your own meats, your vegetables. You have to be responsible for yourself, because we can't trust what other people are telling us. Like, organic's been gone for years. It's organic, so we're raising the price, but it's the exact same product, just put a different label on it, because they're using the same chemicals, etc. It's really, it's just another marketing gimmick.
So,
it is now. It used to be something, mean something.
So it gets down. It gets back down to the direction that we really want to go, because we have gotten so worldwide and buying things from other parts of the world, and we don't have no idea what exactly it is that we're getting, and we have to rely on the system that tells us that.
Well, and it's just like
work.
what Ghetto Hippie is saying here. Organic products in the USA can have up to 20% non-organic ingredients in them and still be labeled organic. How did that ever pass, somebody's review?
There's a little slight difference in that those are labeled organic. They're not labeled certified organic. So if they're labeled certified organic, they're not allowed to use chemical fertilizers or pesticides at all, no 20% at all. But organic is not regulated. The word organic. You can't stop anybody from putting organic on their label. See?
Whoa. Let's take a step back there, because legal labeling has to go through government. So yes, they can be regulated. I look at our cannabis industry in Canada, where you're not allowed to say, A, B, and C. You can only use X, Y, and Z on the labeling. So if you're looking at a label that is from any of these products, it has to meet federal regulations. So if they're saying something on that label that's wrong, I'm going to stop right there, because I'm going to get kicked off of YouTube.
But what I meant is that you're going to find products that are labeled that way, but not labeled in the United States that way. They're shipped in from other countries, and that's the problem when you look at the labels that are done in other countries. They're not checked when they're brought in. Because I've read many cases of food being smuggled in because and then there's no way you can tell until they looked at the label, and it's not a label that's certified by the United States. So in other countries, they can do labeling however they want to. It depends on their laws.
Well, and like another thing from Ghetto Hippie, major supermarkets in the U.S. have been in lawsuits for fraudulent business practices.
Exactly right.
And this is happening whether it's in our produce or our electronics. It's the same
over and over again. And over again. This is one particular major one. It seems to be getting in trouble on a regular basis because that label is not organic at all, and there is the label, and when you say the name of the company, you go, "Wow, that's from that company." Oh my God, right?
Yeah.
So you can't trust the company anymore, even though you know the name. They've been around for a long time, and you've been trusting them that they get the best around. It's not the case.
Well, and then you have to consider buyouts. Like, okay, look at Monsanto and Bayer. Monsanto got out all of this bullshit by selling to Bayer, but they're not changing anything. It's, how many trucking companies have gotten into major accidents, lost all their licensing, and are back the next day because they changed the name? Okay, so yeah, this isn't just in our food. It's a problem with how the system works.
Right. So it comes back down to, I remember Victory Gardens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Victory Garden basically is grow your own. And
Yes.
ideally, that's one reason why I like going to organic gardening clubs, because there's usually a group of people in a neighborhood. Together, you can buy almost anything by walking around the neighborhood and buying from different people who are growing.
Yeah. Well,
This is an organized crime.
in a lot of ways it is, and I hate to say it, because it doesn't matter in what country around the world you are. You got to go to the mom and pop, that's actually doing something. That's one of the reasons, they got everything is corporate, and they squashed the little guys in the little towns that had the grocery stores, the bookstores, the everything like that. They've quashed all these little guys and put in all the corporates so that they can just make it that much worse. Than we have less and less control. And that's where the Victory Gardens were fantastic. And if you have the opportunity to have a garden, you should have a garden.
That's also like, that's a good reason to basically learn how to grow
Yeah.
your own food. You really need to do that, and you need to really start. I was going to say, here where I live, and I'm not going to give it a name, and I'm not even going to mention a city where I live. The mom and pops have been kicked out. Your rent is now $50,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
So guess who moves in? So big giant corporations move in.
Yeah. And they're
Yeah,
all owned. If you and I have actually looked at this, and there was lots of information, that showed just how the corporate system globally works. It all goes up to a very few families owning everything at the top. And that's the main problem, because we're dictated by the king and queen at the top, telling us what we can and can't do, what we can and can't eat. Like they're putting plastic as food. They're 3D printing meat. I mean, like, this is at the point of it's so bloody ridiculous that it's beyond imagination.
So I was reading just this morning an article that says 3 people, and I'm not going to give any name, have more money than the 50% of the 60% of the people on the planet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, you'll know which names, you can figure out for yourself, but 3 people have more money than 60% of the people on the planet. And that's the process that's been going on here for a long, long, long time. That's something that we're going to have to deal with it over and over again, because that's the way it works. Unfortunately, the commercial process is, the bigger the company, the more they have control, and the word is control.
Well, and then the more money they have for lawyers that can put anybody like us, down fast, because we can't, gag us. Exactly. And well, there are areas and there are people standing up, and it is going to change eventually, because their system is not sustainable, because the more of us that they kill, it wakes up our friends and our neighbors and our families, hopefully, to see what's truly going on. And, hopefully this is going to change in the future.
So I like it. To me, it's just part of life. You always have to defend yourself. You have to grow your own food as much as you can. You have to know what you're eating. You have to know where you're getting your food from. It didn't make much sense to me when I would go to the store. I have no idea who grew this stuff, and this is grown where, and it always rang a bell like something's very dangerous here, and I have to be real careful about it, because even if it's like certified organic, even if it's natural, there's still something going on in the terms of, because I was reading again, I read a lot about, so this shipping company, they ship both organic and conventionally grown produce in the same truck at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so it's like tell the fruit, hold your breath, guys. We'll be there in a little bit. No, see, and the containers are all mixed in together, hanging there. And it's like, and so that is a problem. And also too, when you're shipping fruit into the country, they gas it. They
Yeah.
gas it, and that's not organic, but it's organic compound. So it gets away being still called organic, the product.
Well, and like I'm an old truck driver, right? And
Yeah,
I
you're
did
all
it for
right.
20 years. Here's a good story from a close friend of mine that was hauling produce, and he picked up a load of produce. They pumped in the gas to finish the ripening before it got to the warehouse for the stores.
Yeah,
He got, 2 states over, he got a phone call to go to a different chemical plant to pull that chemical out of his trailer, pump in a new chemical into his trailer because the order got canceled and it was going to go back to the warehouse. So it needed to sit for another 2 or 3 months before it was shipped to a store again. So he got halfway back and he got another phone call. Oh, the distributor paid their bill. So now go to another chemical plant, have the second chemical pumped out, a new chemical put in to ripen the fruit so that when it got to the warehouse, it was at the right stage of ripening. The fruit we're eating in the stores has been picked so green, it's
yeah,
more like rubber, and
yeah,
they're chemically
yeah,
modifying it to
yeah,
say, oh, it was ripe when it was
yeah, yeah,
picked.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
When I
right.
lived when I lived in Costa Rica, I worked for a Chiquita. Oh, I worked for this
Okay.
banana company.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say I said the name barely. I said the name, but I did manage to work for them because I was very good for organics, and they were having problems, and they pick it green. There's like rock hard, and you know what happens when you pick fruit that green?
Is rock hard? It's not ripe, that's for sure.
What happens if it's not ripe? What does that mean to
It,
you?
it's not good. It's still it,
Come on, you can say it. You can do it. You can say it. Come on, spit it out. Come
it's
on, you can do
death
it.
by fruit. How's that sound?
It doesn't have the minerals. It doesn't have the food value. You
Yeah.
can't. There's nothing nutritional in it because the plant didn't get a chance to pump it in. That's what. Remember sugar. Remember sugar means minerals. So when the fruit starts getting pumped in there with the sugar, the minerals come right along with it, and then you eat it. You're going to get the minerals. So you're picking it before it gets the mineral, before it gets the sugar ripening process, you're not going to get the minerals. And then it takes you more energy to process it in your body, and you lose on that. It's totally, and then top it off, it could be organic or it could be chemically grown, but they pump gas it on the shipping process as well.
Yeah.
They pump gases to keep it from ripening, then they pump gas to make it ripen faster.
Yeah. And
It's all a
it's
process.
been
Keep
that
the same thing with avocados. You name the fruit.
well, yeah, it's we were designed to eat from our local environment before all of this shipping and stuff, happened. It's just like, if you're highly allergic to your environment, you're going to move from that environment. Yet, we can bring all this stuff from other countries, eat it here. It doesn't have the same biology that's, around us. It doesn't have the same chemical makeups of the produce around us. It's harder for us to digest because we didn't grow up in that environment. We don't have the biology, from that environment in our guts to break those molecules down. So yeah, and it's not just eating it green, Andy. It's we don't have the biology that makes up that Chiquita banana, from Venezuela, because we don't live in Venezuela.
So the other on that point too. So a lot of people they have all these fruit. I have a customer has over maybe 100, 200 different fruit trees in the yard. And these fruit are from all over the world. So in other words, these particular fruit were not used to being growing in this environment. They grew better, whatever environment. So that means they're not getting all the nutritional value that they would have if they were grown somewhere else. And it's going to take them, they may never fully recover to the same state as that other place they came from, right? Because like here's a desert environment. So it's never going to be luscious and never going to have amazing soil to grow in. It's always going to be deficient. And that's probably a big problem why they have diseases and pests, because it's not genetically, it's not, this is not the environment for the biology. It doesn't even have the biology there that it needs. As you said, see?
Yeah. And it's absolutely crazy that we expect to be healthy the way that, you go to say Wally Mart or Costco or any of these stores. They're bringing in, from all over the world at the cheapest that they can get it for their profit margins. And you expect to get healthy, wholesome food from these places. Like it's insane when you start doing some real deep research into what's actually helping or happening in our food systems globally. That's where, if it's growing locally, if it's your next door neighbor, then it's your environment. And yeah, that should be good for you as long as they're not spraying chemicals.
So what's going on is that here in the United States, the government says you can grow 1 billion acres of corn and we'll pay you to do 1 billion acres of corn. So why should they grow all kinds of fruit and vegetables when they can just do 1 billion acres of corn or whatever else? That's what's basically happened here. In California, it's supposed to be the breadbasket of the world, but they're growing billions of acres of stuff that they're shipping out to other places, not even things that we can eat here. In other words, you can grow a lot more vegetables, more fruit that grow here, and that are good for this climate. Because that's one of the things I'm looking into more, is getting things that are really good vegetables because they've been grown here for a long time.
Yeah.
Already, and so that's what's going on. We have to buy stuff from other countries because we're growing something that we're shipping over to other countries and not even eating it here.
Well, and that happens a lot here in Canada with our oats and, barley, wheat. I can't buy the top quality wheat in my own country or the top quality flour in my own country because it's sold overseas, or it's sold to the US, or it's sold to South America. We can't even get the best quality in our own country. And you're seeing it in California, the same thing is happening. So where's all this really good, healthy food going? Because it isn't going to the country that grows it. I think that is literally criminal.
What should happen, I'm just going to throw it out. Ideally, I don't have any problem you shipping it over the world. You also should sell it to your local people who want it. If I want to buy your food, I should be able to go right to the manufacturing plant or wherever it is. I'll take 10 pounds of that, 10 pounds of that, because you grew it here. But they don't sell it to you. But I think the reason is we can sell it for more money over there than to sell it to you. Personally, I would pay the same amount if I don't care. Just give me the food, right?
Well, I worked for a bakery for a couple of 3 years, and the flour that they use is at a level of quality that us as a normal person cannot ever buy. It's sold specifically to these bakeries, like these mega corporation bakeries, because it's of so much of better quality. We can't even buy it, Andy. And I don't know if there's government regulations or it's just how the grain has been set up, but we can't even get those top qualities in our own area. They just won't. It's not available.
You can get it, but you have to go online and order it from a company that's selling it somewhere else, and then they'll ship it.
from some
That's
other country, from some
right.
other, planet, I think is what we're looking at
No,
now.
so like there's a couple of stores here in town, and I said we get our bread from Italy. We ship it over from Italy, and we cook and our wheat and all that stuff. We cook it because we buy it directly from Italy. That's why it costs a little bit more. There are a couple places in town that do that because there's a big difference that in the wheat. I can eat that kind of wheat all day; it doesn't get sick. But I eat the wheat they're growing. Wheat these people use here. It isn't wheat. It's the movie called "What's Up with Wheat." Watch it, and it'll tell you this is not wheat as we know it. It's used for paint, fertilizer, pesticides, all kinds of stuff. And it's wheat. And so it's the same thing with almost a variety of other foods that we're buying are being so genetically modified that they're not really very beneficial for us. They're great for growing 1,000 billion acres of something. They look the same, but they're not the same crop that we should get maybe 100 years ago. So it'd be nice if we, and there are places you can still buy. I've started doing that, buying vegetables and plants that are the original genetic, the genetics, the way they were brought here. So I was looking at how people were growing, how people are Native American Indians. They sells amazing corn. The corn will grow here like crazy. So I'm starting to grow it here. I'm growing other things that have been grown for centuries by people, and they're still here around to use. That's a process of learning because you can't buy these seeds. So I'm trying to reestablish seeds from them as well, get seeds growing, make it available to local people. So what I do here is like an organic hospital, plant hospital. People bring me their plants, but also too, I grow things that you can't really grow. I grow them in containers and started growing them in containers, bigger containers. And if you stick in the ground, they'll die because there's nothing here. You won't be able to, no matter what you do with there, it's just not the right environment for these poor little guys. So you want to be able to grow them in a greenhouse environment, and then you can grow. Unfortunately,
and that's heirloom. Are we talk heirloom seeds?
Yeah, right.
And it's very difficult for me in Canada to buy an heirloom seed that was grown in California and have it grow in Canada.
Yeah, I won't do
because it'll do it. It's just not going to be healthy. But then if I take that seed from, say, a tomato plant and I replant it here for 3 or 4 or 5 years, it will change to the biological makeup in my soil. It'll change to the latitude that I live at because I don't live at sea level.
Right.
It'll change to the environment slowly over time. But that's not what we're giving things nowadays. We're not giving them time. We're giving them, okay, we're Serena's popping questions and jokes again. Thanks for doing that, Serena. We do actually appreciate them.
I did that. Oh, there's another one. I can't stop it. Oh, stop. That's what I do. That's what I do here. See, when I have heirloom seeds, I have a seed bank from over the world. I have a whole bunch of stuff from Peru. So I will start them here in containers, get them growing it so they'll survive. If they make the ground healthy enough so that they'll survive in there. The environment is so weird here. Growing containers allows me to bring them into a safe environment and bring it back out again, so to speak. And so, but once they get to a certain age, that they'll start to grow in the ground. There are plants that you have to they produce seeds. You have to do the seeds thing all over again. Then there are plants, which is what I'm looking into, that do not. They're parental vegetables. They don't, they don't die off. They keep growing like little trees.
Yeah.
And so I want to grow those things because they will grow better and better. I'm learning now that I have some vegetables that are starting. This is the second year I've been here. So it's the second generation of seeds that I've been growing. Plus the soil is starting to look better. So that's what I do. I did that in Florida too. So I used to buy seeds from China, Japan, and colder environments and get them growing. And at first I didn't like it, but if they produce seeds, those seeds will grow. They did a little better. Every year, those same seeds, the plant will produce seeds and we'd be genetically more happier in their environment. Never totally, because you can never really duplicate a tropical environment, for example, or what I try to do is duplicate a cold environment where they need snow. So I would literally go buy some snow and put it around to try to duplicate that process for them, because I know a lot of, I'm trying right now, I'm trying to grow some pine. I'm trying to grow some redwood, and these require snow. The redwood requires fire. So it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah, you have to try to give them what they want to get them to sprout their little seeds. So that's what I'm trying to do here, is get seeds growing to be harmonized with my environment. And I can say these are natural. I'm actually thinking of starting to call them natural, and then with in quotes, organic. So the two, or maybe I used to have the two together. So I'll give you something interesting too. Rock dust. Rock dust cannot be classified as organic or natural,
Yeah.
because rock dust is a rock. It's a mineral.
Mm-hmm. And that's where, we talk about, the C90 sea salt giving you minerals. Sand will give you minerals. You know, you can't regulate that. I don't think they can regulate us, shipping, a sea salt,
No, they
globally,
can't.
but I'm sure they're going to try.
They haven't. They haven't yet. I think what they try to regulate it is to make sure that it doesn't have any toxic metals in it. The same thing
Yeah.
with the rock dust. There was a case where the company was making some rock dust powder. It was a mining company that had all this powder, the dust left over,
Yeah.
and they normally do a lab test, and they would not show you the lab test because of heavy metal and cadmium and mercury and lead in that dust.
Yeah.
Aside, it had a lot of other trace minerals, but it was really too heavy, so they couldn't use that. So that's where they do keep an eye on your rock. Right now, the rock dust sources are pretty well. They looked into it. Once they check here for the minerals, it's not going to change. You're not going to all of a sudden be toxic. Have your minerals become toxic. So that they only need to test you once when you first find something you want to sell it. You have to test it. It's fine. You don't have to ever test it again. Or so
And that should be wrong. Actually, they should be, a yearly test,
yearly,
constantly testing them.
right?
But
Because
Serena has a question, Andy. What are the soil requirements for carrots, and when is the best time of year to start the seeds?
the best time of year depends where you live. Now, I grow carrots here in Southern California. The only time I don't grow carrots is right dab in the middle of the summertime when it's extremely hot. So I don't. The carrots don't do very well. The carrots will do good. They're growing. I have carrots now. I grow carrots here in Southern California: September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April. Probably February, March, because it's getting hotter sooner. Maybe March. So those are the season I would grow here. But when I lived in Boulder, Colorado, it was too cold. You can only grow it during the fall or the early spring, because they do not like high heat. See, but they don't mind.
So I think the answer is when the temperatures are not extreme in either direction, you can grow carrots.
Right, and because it's a below ground crop, it can handle a colder environment, because the snow doesn't really. If it's occasionally snowing or freeze, it doesn't bother it. So you as opposed to above ground crops, and also too, there are varieties you can grow year round, and that's what one of the things that I'm looking into. Lots of different varieties you get. So there are literally maybe 1,000 varieties of carrots, little round carrots, little tiny, teeny, weeny little baby carrots. I grow these miniature carrots. They're like that big. They're that big. And if you're growing that, you grow them in a flat tray, because you don't need the soil. You just make it there in a little tray. They come up little carrots like that, tiny things. So there's tons of different varieties of carrots. I would first start off. I'm assuming you don't have the carrot seeds yet, but I would buy carrot seeds that are locally grown to start with. If you can find somebody who's been growing carrots, or a company that sells it in your neighborhood, specifically in your area, you'll get better results. But you can also go online and buy carrots from anywhere around the world and start playing with, because you'd be surprised. Here's an idea too. So I assume you have I don't know where you live in the country, but in the world, do you know where this person lives?
I believe she's living in the northeast U.S.
Northeast. That means it snows there, right?
Oh yeah, there. She's saying supposed to get 1 to 3 inches of snow and ice tomorrow, and then it warms up to the 50s again. Minnesota, she says.
Right. When I was in Boulder, I actually grew carrots during the winter time indoors, and my around. I put a big greenhouse around the pool and I used the heat of the pool water to keep it warm at night. So carrots, and if you have a greenhouse, you can grow year round. You just have to heat up the house. You have to heat it
Yeah.
up so it doesn't get so cold. So it just depends to what degree you want to grow your carrots. But otherwise, in your place, you're gonna have to wait for it to defrost as much as possible. You can grow it early spring into maybe uh, you know uh, early summer, because when it gets too hot, then you probably will be too hot there. But also too, a good growing season will probably be September, October, November, December. Also in the fall. That fall is the ideal time. You have more time than you do in the wintertime, because wintertime you only got January, February, March. I don't know. Maybe April is still cold, right?
She's living in Oklahoma, where she gets snow. Like, so it's more if you're growing indoors, you can grow year round. If you're growing in that greenhouse, you want a very lofty, loomy soil. You want it not to be heavy
Very
in
light.
clay. Yeah, very light, so that the carrot can go down through easily, or they don't. You'll get a lot of deformed carrots if your soil is too heavy. But if you're growing lettuce at these times of the year, grow carrots at those times of the year, because
I'll
the
tell you what you
brassica
can do.
likes the cool as well.
I'll give an example of what you really should do. So you want to attach a greenhouse to your house, the door you walk into from your living room, kitchen, or whatever. So your house will warm up the greenhouse. You can go a little further. If you were going to build a greenhouse, what you do is you build a floor, and through it you run copper pipes before you lay down the wood. So you run water through the copper pipe, and those copper pipes you run it up to the wall, through the ceiling of your greenhouse, or even your house. So they run up and down like that. So the sun heats them up, and you seal it. You put water in there, maybe with the valves you can add water to it. But usually when you fill it with water, it will naturally circulate. It will warm that whole place up, and then you can grow year round, because reason why you have a hard time growing in the greenhouse wintertime, it gets too cold. So if you get
it would freeze your water pipes. Like, Andy, it's a hell of a good suggestion. And if you guys are going to look at geothermal and things like that, that's great in California, where Andy lives.
Not in Canada or Minnesota.
In Canada, you'd actually have to use something different than water.
Yeah.
Okay, because it would freeze, it would break, you would have issues.
Yeah.
Guys, we're almost at the 1 hour mark, so we're going to jump off of that. I did want to share Serena's joke here, and that's, what does snowman use to make a salad? Snow crabs, snow peas, icicle radishes, and iceberg lettuce. Good one. And Merry Christmas. I know we're a few weeks away yet, but we're in December now, so I can start saying ho, 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 hold the payments, okay?
Take care, guys. See you next week. We're talking
what are we talking about next week, Andy?
7 R's. The Municipal Gardener 7 R's.
There we go.
We'll have a little contest to see if you guys know what they are. Get it? R. Get the R.
R. Tomorrow, the ladies are back. Holiday stress survival, nervous system, hormones, and chiropractic. That's on tomorrow. Dr. Paula will be on with us again on Sunday for her, weekly presentation. And then we've got Sam Baker from Wiggle Brew coming back on Monday with Leighton. So guys, have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful week. We will see you tomorrow, hopefully with the ladies talking about chiropractic in our physical bodies.
Bye.